Hello there, and welcome to another video talking through the legacy factions for Warhammer the Old World. This is Chaos Dwarves. So far, the thing that is, again, this is another very flavoursome book that goes through, that explains how you can use your Chaos Dwarves on a tabletop. I mean, if you've got a Chaos Dwarf army, you lucky person, because the rules look amazing. I don't know whether they'll be any good at tournaments and stuff, but you know, they're really characterful. So as usual, I think that the best place to start is at the special rules, just so you've got them in the back of your mind for later, because you know, like the universal special rules, you know, it's really important that you know all of the universal special. Well, it's probably not important that you know all of them, but certainly the ones that apply to your army. Stuff like stubborn and veteran and shield wall and warband and horde will probably come up fairly regularly. Anyway, so Chaos Dwarves. Hobgoblins, generally speaking, have this ability called backstab, which means they can re-roll hit rolls when they're attacking an enemy in the flank or the rear. They're not amazingly quick, but the way the game works, it seems pretty easy to pull that off. Black Shard, I need to check something actually. I need to check whether they're like a regiment or not. Also in this video, I will explain how the regiment and detachment rules work. Black Shard armor is a bit like Chaos armor. Wizards can wear it. It gives you a 5 at ward, just flat, and all against attacks made by flaming attacks. So it's not a 5 at ward against everything, it's just against flaming. Blazing Body, which essentially the not Lamassu, Taurox, and the G'dai have this, which essentially means at the start of every combat phase, any model, friend or foe, in base contact with this model, and that doesn't also have this special rule, takes a single strength 3 hit with no AP, flaming. And wounds lost to these hits don't count towards combat results. So that's a little bit extra damage. Ensorcelled weapons is exactly the same as Chaos. AP1 magic attacks. Only applies to single non-magical hand weapon. So if you've got 2 hand weapons or great weapons, they're not ensorcelled. It's just single hand weapons. Hellbound. Hellbound models. So Hellbound in this is essentially war machines can upgrade to Hellbound. So a Hellbound model gets a 6 up ward caused by non-magical attacks and causes both fear and gets the magical attacks rule itself, and if it already had fear, it becomes terrifying. Additionally, once per game, Hellbound model may reroll 1 scatter or artillery dice. However, on misfire table, it suffers a -1 to hit. So Chaos Dwarves have some amazing war machines. I mean, they are so powerful. Hellbound just seems to make them even better. They are quite expensive points-wise, so don't worry about that. It seems okay. Resolute, like normal Dwarves, they're -1 to flee or pursue. And Stampede, this is Bull Centaurs, basically. There's a Bull Centaur character as well, so it's on both War Scrolls, both list entries. Impact hits cause AP2, so it doesn't have to be monster against, it's just AP2 impact hits. So that's the universal special rule. In terms of what you're allowed, the percentages are the same, so up to half on characters, up to half on special, at least 25% in core. You've got to have 1 unit of Infernal Guard, and you can have 25% rare. The cool thing about Chaos Dwarves is they've always had this like weird alliance with Black Orcs, just Black Orcs. There's something in the lore about Chaos Dwarves making Black Orcs at some stage, you know, whatever. But I mean, that's disputed, and like Games Workshop themselves have said, is, you know, everything is canon, not everything is true. So there are myths and legends in the land of myths and legends, some of which are lies and just made up. So, you know, everything somebody says is something that somebody said, but that doesn't necessarily make it true. So, core, you've got to have a unit of Infernal Guard. You're going to want to take a unit of Infernal Guard anyway because they're really good. You can take a Black Orc boss and a Black Orc mob. You might actually want to do that because they're pretty tough and they're pretty swingy. And they're slightly faster than your Infernal Guard, so you might want to do that. And you might want to take a few units of Hobgoblins just to get around the flanks and do a bit of extra damage because they're, again, a little bit faster. So you've got a good selection there. Special, you've got an Iron Demon, which is basically... So Chaos Dwarves have this really, really super amazing thing, which is like the land train. And the Iron Demon is like the engine of the land train. And then what you can do from the war machines, Death Shriekers, Magma Cannons, Dreadquake Mortars, not Hell Cannon, but Dreadquake Mortars, you can put them on a carriage and then the land train can cart them around the battlefield. The Iron Demon can then cart them around the battlefield and then they can fire having moved and also count as not moving. And it's not that expensive to upgrade them. If you've got a big one, however, that will work out to... Big ones are quite expensive. Hobgoblin bolt throwers, I'm super glad that they've limited them to 0 to 2 because bolt throwers in this edition are pretty good and those are only 45 points each for Hobgoblins. So I'm glad you can only have 4 of them in an army. I mean, if I had Chaos Dwarves, I'd probably have 4 bolt throwers in an army because you're spending 180 points to potentially wipe out a unit a turn. So that's, you know, given good dice, you know, which good dice are rare. You got some Hobgoblin Wolf Riders per Hobgoblin Khan. So essentially, if you take, in order to get the Hobgoblin Wolf Riders, you have to take a Hobgoblin Khan. However, it's the other way round for Bull Centaurs. So in order to get a Bull Centaur Tarruk, you need to take a unit of Bull Centaurs for the Tarruk to lead. Okay. So, Sorcerers of Hashut. Hashut is like... Hashut. It's like the... I don't know why I did that. It's like the god of... Source of the Chaos Dwarves. Yeah. So, Sorcerers are more or less the kind of the leaders of the Chaos Dwarves. So, Chaos Dwarves have fully embraced magic. They're not like dwarves who shun it. They are Chaos Dwarves and they have embraced the chaotic powers. So Sorcerer Lords, the Sorcerer Prophet, Leadership 10, absolutely amazing. Toughness 5, 3 wounds. I think he's well worth 195 points. So level 3 wizard. You want a level 4 in a 2k list anyway. Making him level 4 costs you 225. So that's pretty good. Blood of Hashut is 20 points per vial. Blood of Hashut is amazing. Like, let's go look at that now, actually. In fact, I'll go through the weapons now because the weapons they've got are just fantastic. Essentially, like the Chaos Dwarves are like the armourers of the Hordes of Chaos, but they keep the best stuff back for themselves, and what they've got is just brilliant. So, Blood of Hashut, yes, it's single use. However, you make a single roll to hit, so you can make a single attack to expend 1 vial. Okay. Now, it says instead of attacking normally, okay, so instead of attacking normally, which if you got a Sorcerer Lord, they're a bit rubbish in combat anyway, they're just quite survivable. You make a single attack to expend a vial, make a single roll to hit. If you're successful, d6 hits, right? But instead of rolling to wound, you roll the opponent's armor value, and no armor saves are allowed. Ward and regen are allowed, but no armor saves are allowed against that. So, for instance, you know, you're in combat with a load of, I don't know, let's say First Order Knights. You roll to hit, you hit on a 4. There we go. I've just hit. I do 4 hits. Their armor save is 2 up. I roll 2 up. That's 4 of them. No saves. So it's just kill 4 for like 20 points. I mean, I think that's amazing. And you can have... it doesn't really put a limit on the number of Blood of Hashuts you can have. I mean, realistically, you're not going to want more than like 2. I mean, realistically, you're probably going to take 1 because, you know, for that one combat where it's really useful and you need to kill a lot of knights very quickly or a lot of high armor save stuff very quickly. So that's pretty good. Dark Forged weapons are like demon weapons that some characters can have. The Taruk, I think, can have a Dark Forged weapon. There's a variety of abilities like +1 strength, magic resistance, That's pretty cool. It's random though, so you gotta roll this after deployment, so you don't even get to know before you've deployed. So you can't really, you know, if you rolled, for instance, strength +1, you could line him up against something that's high toughness. You can't do that. It's not tremendously reliable, but all the effects are positive. Fire glaives are like their handguns. They're a bit shorter range than a normal handgun, I think, but they do have a combat effect as well because they've got like a massive axe at the end of the handgun. So yeah, they're pretty cool for, you know, strength 4, AP1, armor bane 1, same as a handgun. However, in combat, strength +1, AP1, armor bane 1 as well. So they're really good. It's got that dual use, which, you know, I think is brilliant. I mean, they're better than ensorcelled weapons, because if you got an ensorcelled weapon, it's just normal strength, AP1, magic, you know. I mean, maybe, yeah, whatever. Depends who you're fighting. Then you got these hail shot blunderbusses, which are 12-inch range, strength 3, AP1, multiple shots D3, and volley fire. And no negative modifiers for firing at long range, for using the multiple shots, or whilst making a stand and shoot. So you only suffer negative modifiers really for like cover or for moving and shooting. In addition, if 20 or more models belong to the same unit shoot at the same target with Hellshot blunderbusses, they may reroll any ones to wound, which I think is brilliant. I don't know, 20 or more, it's not likely that you're going to have that in a unit. Even with volley fire, because you could have like 6 in the front rank, and then how many would you need behind that to get enough shots? So you need 4 ranks, wouldn't you? Because it'd be 3 per rank. Yeah, I mean, are you going to really take a big block of 30 dwarves to... I mean, because they're not cheap either, so that'd be a big point sink. Cool, though. And then Naphtha bombs are strength 6, AP3... flaming, ponderous. Yeah, I mean, they're okay. They're good for standing and... no, because you can't, because... what? Ponderous? Ponderous means that it's an extra -1 when moving and shooting, isn't it? But quick shot means that you don't... Hold on a second. Let's just check the rules on that, because that's I really should have remembered all this by now. Where's the special rules? Special rules. Ponderous suffers a hit modifier of -2 for moving and shooting, but I thought quick shot does not suffer the usual -1 to hit for moving and shooting. So you do suffer -2 to hit for moving and shooting, but you can stand and shoot at any distance. Because ponderous means it suffers -1. Quick shot says you don't suffer the usual -1. Ponderous says you suffer -2 and not -1. So that basically means you're -2 to hit if you move, but standing and shooting you can do from anywhere. So naphtha bombs are basically very defensive. Okay, that's overly confusing. Sorcerer of Hashut can have naphtha bombs and a dark forged weapon and a blood of Hashut if you really want it to, but I mean it's not great in combat. You can put it on a Bale Taurus or a Great Taurus. It was just Taurus. Or a Lamassu, which is the one with the weird, like, Byzantine beard. Demon Smiths, which are the lower level ones, can't go on a Bale Taurus. They've got black shard armor, so they've got heavy armor that they can cast under, because that was that rule. They've got ensorcelled weapons, so they're AP1 magic just for hand weapons. They've got Infernal Engineers, which means that not only are they sorcerers, they're engineers. So once per turn, a friendly war machine within its command range, which if it's the general will be 12, if it's the general on a Taurus or Lamassu will be 18. May reroll 1 scatter dice or 1 artillery dice, which is amazing. So you could just have a flappy sorcerer of Hashots costing about 400 or 500 points, sniffing around a land train that also costs about 400 or 500 points, making everything super reliable. And it can ignore miscasts, sort of. If it takes a toughness test, remember, toughness 5, so it fails on a 6. If the test fails, it loses a single wound and gains +1 modifier to its toughness instead of rolling on the miscast table. If this test is passed, I mean, I understand the rules, I just don't get the point. I mean, so the narrative there is, the flesh of a sorcerer of Hashut hardens and blackens over time, eventually turning to stone. Which, okay, I get the okay. So if you miscast, you roll a dice. If you fail the toughness test, which is 6 for the sorcerer prophet, 5 or 6 for the demon smith, then it gets +1 toughness and takes a wound if you fail. If you pass, however, you just roll a miscast, so you don't get to ignore miscasts. I skimmed that the last time, I think. Yeah, how odd. God, Chaos Dwarf players are going to have a lot of fun explaining that to their opponents. Yeah. Then you've got these Infernal Guard Commanders. So these are like the military leaders, but they swear service narratively to the sorcerers. So the sorcerers are the people in charge. These can have all the weapons that you could want them to, apart from the blood vial thing that kills armor. They can only have heavy armor, but then they take a shield, etc., etc., etc. They're pretty good. They're not as good as like a dwarf lord. They're about on par probably with a dwarf thane. Yeah, they're okay. I mean, for 125 points or even 60 points, that's not bad to sort of stick a character in like your big block of infantry. And then you have the Taruk, which again can have a dark forged weapon, great weapon, shield, all the rest. So the other thing that's important to mention is in Infernal. So sorcerers don't have rallying cry, right? So the Infernal Guard commanders have rallying cry. They've also got resolute and stubborn, and I'm just going to read it just to ensure that I get it right. Yeah, so so rallying cry is you can pick a unit that's fleeing in your command range and it can attempt to rally. So rallying happens, there's a sub-phase for rallying and the command sub-phase is before that. So you can essentially attempt to rally a unit twice. If it fails a rally, it doesn't move, it doesn't flee again immediately. I think. Resolute. I can't remember what that is. Resolute. Oh, it must be a rule. No, resolute was -1 to flee and pursuit rolls, and stubborn is I think you can basically ignore your first break test more or less. Yeah, the first time this unit is required to make a break test, it may choose not to and will automatically fall back in good order. But a unit that's got stubborn, so a unit that is stubborn can't use it if there's... I mean, I'm not sure on that because so for instance, the wording on counter charge is that if every single model in this unit has this rule, then it may do the counter charge thing. Stubborn, it says a hero may not use this rule if it doesn't have it, but it's in a unit that does, or something. Anyway, I think what they mean is if the hero and the unit have to both be stubborn in order for it to be stubborn. Blah blah blah. I mean, swift stride, movement 7. That's pretty quick. I quite like the Tauruk. I think he's all right. So you got the Hobgoblin Khan, who's a very, very cheap character for leading around hobgoblins. You can put him on a giant wolf. You need to take him, don't you, in order to get some giant wolves. So you have to take a Hobgoblin Khan to get some hobgoblins on wolvies. There's your giant wolf profile. So I'll just zip through to the mounts first. So the Great Taurus, you can put... Could you put your commanders on that? I can't remember, actually. I don't think you could you? There's no mount for them. So this is what the the sorcerers go on. You've got a Great Taurus, which is essentially gives them +4 wounds. And the Bale Taurus is +4 wounds and +1 toughness. And it's got another attack, another point of strength. The rules are the same, so they've both got this Born of Fire rule, which means you've got to take hits if you're in combat with it at the start of the combat phase, but they don't count towards res, which is pretty good. Sorry, that's Blazing Body, isn't it? Born of Fire means it's got a ward save against flaming. Here, 3+ ward save against flaming, so it's pretty, if you've got flaming attacks, this one's going to ignore most of them. It's got, all the stuff you'd expect, some stomp attacks. Hasn't got impact hits, which I think is quite interesting. And the model may make one of its attacks with the goring horns, which strike first and have strength +1 and AP 3. I think you're always going to do that. And then you've got the Lam Masu, which is gives an extra 3 wounds. It's kind of like a small amount. It's a wise and crafty beast that you can upgrade to have this mace tail thing, which is an additional attack, so it's probably worthwhile doing for 10 points. And for another 15 points, you can give it a pretty decent breath weapon. I mean, that's all pretty good. It also gives you magic resistance 3, which is awesome. It's also got Sorcerous Miasma, which means that it's got these like clouds that turn off magic weapons. So if you're attacking it with a magic weapon, doesn't count as a magic weapon, counts as a mundane one instead. So that's pretty cool. So that's an interesting one. It only gives you an extra 3 wounds. However, it gives you a lot of like defensive stuff, especially the Sorcerous Miasma. Remembering that quite a lot of the Monster Slayer, and it's a monster, quite a lot of the Monster Slayer rules come from magic weapons. That's pretty good. Okay, so we'll cover the land train last, I think. Save the best till last. So this is your Infernal Ironsworn, okay? These are the mainstay of the unit. This is the one that you've got to have. Sorry, not Ironsworn. Infernal Guard are what you've got to have one of, okay? The Infernal Ironsworn, however, have this ability here, Regimental Unit, okay? Your Infernal Guard, which you've got to have one of, also have Regimental Unit. So, what Regimental Unit means is that you have a detachment. You can create a detachment out of regimental units. This is a regimental unit. This unit has the detachment rules. So let me just check just to absolutely make sure I've got this the right way around. But my understanding is that regimental units can take detachments. So detachments are, or can be, smaller versions of the unit that it's supposed to be. What was it? Page, was it 172? Something like that? No. 192. Regimental. What, 282? I know it ended in a 2. 192 was quite close, sort of, numerically. Such regimental units that can be taken as detachments are called detachments. I thought that would be the case. However, like move and shoot, which is actually march and shoot, sometimes they don't call things what they are. Anyway, so these can be taken as detachments. I don't think I saw anything else that could be taken as detachments. I'll just quickly check. I think that's your only option for detachments. Yeah, boy. Right. So the Iron Sworn are like the elite, the best of the best of the best, sir. You know, that kind of stuff. They got full plate armor. You can give them shields. They got a 3-up save, which combined with their toughness 4 makes them pretty gnarly. You can give the champion, which is called an overseer, some naphtha bombs for like standing and shooting and stuff. And it quells panic in levies. Levies in this list are like hobgoblins, I think. Yeah. So, where were we? Not there. So, this is going to be like the big block of infantry that you stick in the middle of the table. You can take Infernal Guard as detachments. You've got to have one unit of them. But for each like regimental unit, you can stick 2 detachments next door to it. In essence, the detachments have to more or less stick to within about 3 inches of the regimental unit. What they can do, however, is that they can countercharge and they can stand and shoot. So what you can do is you can give a unit of so a detachment has to be at least 5 models large, so it breaks this 10 plus and you can make a 5 plus unit of Infernal Guard, and the maximum size is half the size of the regimental unit. So if you had 20 Ironsworn, you could take 2 detachments of between 5 and 10 Infernal Guard. You could do that with Infernal Guard because it's a regimental unit and a detachment. So this one could, you could have 20 of these and then 2 units of 10 either side. I hope that makes sense. So what you typically see is you see a regimental unit, which is a big sort of brick with a couple of units, so the big brick there and a couple of detachments slightly behind it. One of which is going to be armed with missile weapons and the other of which is going to be armed with something like great weapons, okay? Because then when the enemy charges into the main regimental unit, you get a standing shot with the fire glaives, for instance, and then the great weapons get to do a counter charge, which means they've charged, which means they get their like initiative bonus, which is pretty cool. And also because they've counter charged, they can, they're in the flank, so they can stop your opponent getting their rank bonus, which is, it's a really, really interesting rule, and it makes them, quite difficult to deal with. Sorry, I just saw they could take black shard armor for an extra point. Presumably these guys already have it. Yeah, they do. I mean, they've got all the rules, really. They've got resolute, they've got shield wall, they've got stubborn, shield wall, I think, is like when you lose your first combat. When you get pushed back, you don't have to move. Stubborn is, I think we've already talked about it, but essentially you can choose not to take your first break test and just fall back in good order instead, which is great. Veteran, which I've looked up about 20 times whilst I'm doing these bloody videos and I still can't remember it. God, this game's actually really complicated. The more I read, the more complicated it gets. So veteran, you get reroll any failed leadership tests. So they're like super reliable, heavy infantry. The Infernal Guard are heavy infantry, but they're not super reliable, but they're pretty reliable because they've got stubborn, so if they lose they can just fall back in good order automatically, and they've got shield wall, which, you know, they can choose not to be pushed back. They just sort of sit there. I think that's the rule for shield wall, actually. Now I say that, I'll, you know, again read the relevant section of the book just to make sure. The reason I'm doing all this now is that so that when I get into games, I'm not constantly looking stuff up because I can't remember what it is. I do work in financial services, so I get like... okay, once we get... Oh, no, that's amazing. Once per game during a turn in which it was charged, a unit that is arrayed in close order and is equipped with and chooses to use shields may give ground rather than fall back in good order. So you can make that interact with stubborn, so that in essence, instead of taking your first fall back, as long as you've used shields, instead of taking your first leadership check, you can just choose to fall back, just get pushed back. So that's even better than I thought it was. Okay, so you can, like, more or less, well, you can guarantee, and guarantees are really, you know, a powerful word in anything to do with Games Workshop, but essentially you get hit, you can just push back. So you can angle your unit, get hit, just get pushed back, and then you can flank them with some bull centaurs if you want to, which is amazing. Kadai Fireborn are close order. I think they probably should be skirmishers looking at the models, but anyway, they're close order. They do lots of, you know, flamey attacks. You know, they're AP1 because they've got ensorcelled weapons. So they do flaming magical attacks because of the ensorcelled weapons. They've got that thing where you get hurt if you're near them. They're warp spawned, so yes, they've got regen 5, but they lose that regen 5 if they're attacked by magical weapons. Kadai are just weird, like flaming dwarf wizard possessed things. You've got your hobgoblin cutthroats. They're okay, actually. 3 straight across, really low leadership. They do have horde and warband, which means they can get a rank bonus of up to 3, and they use their rank bonus, add their rank bonus to their leadership. So when they're in numbers, their leadership 8, which is pretty good. I've got levies, which basically means levies only cause panic in other levies. Sneaky Gits are elite SAS versions of the Hobgoblin Cutthroats. So they're a little bit better, but not massively. And they've got all the sort of, you know, these are skirmishers instead of close order. So they've lost horde and warband. They get skirmishers and ambushes and move through cover instead. So they're much more likely to get like a flank charge or a rear charge off because they can come in later, and they're quite difficult to shoot because of skirmishers. Then we've got some Hobgoblin Wolf Riders. They're quick because they've got movement 9 and swift stride. You have to take the Hobgoblin Khan in order to take a unit. They're okay. They're really good. They got Fire and Flee, which is an amazing ability, which basically means if you charge them, they can stand and shoot at you, run away, automatically rally, which is great. They've got Evasive, which means when you shoot them, they can decide to flee and automatically rally before you shoot them. You can give them Feigned Flight as well, which you absolutely do. Sorry, I think I said all of that wrong, because I think Feigned Flight is the ability that allows you to automatically rally when you... Ugh. I've got this horrible cold coming along. I can feel it. Yeah, if this unit chose to flee or fire and flee as a charge reaction, it automatically rallies. So it can fire and flee, and then it automatically rallies because of Feigned Flight if you take it. So you're going to take Feigned Flight. You can also take reserve move, so that basically means it can move, shoot, and then move again. So these are supremely flexible. These are proper like horse cavalry. They've got all the horse cavalry rules. So absolutely fantastic, I think. It doesn't say whether these are or. This is and or. I'd probably think or, but I don't know. Bull Centaur renders are monstrous cavalry, so they're like the super heavy cav. There's no heavy cav in this list, but you do have super heavy cav, which is why Chaos Dwarves are sort of slightly better than Dwarves, because they've got cavalry basically, and their war machines can be better. They are expensive though. 56 points. That's a pretty big point sink. You can upgrade a champion is called a Bahal. A Bahal may purchase magic items up to a total of 25. They've got armoured hide. So light armour, shields, armoured hide, which is basically barding, gives them a 4-up save. They got black shard armour, so they got a 5-up ward against flaming. So on and so on and so on and so on and so on. So they got, and they got stubborn as well. They got stampede. Oh, that was impact hits. So they got D3 impact hits each, which are AP2. That's pretty good. Then you got this Iron Demon. So have we finished all the other units? I'll just check. We did that. Okay, so you got the Hobgoblin Bolt Thrower. 45 points is Bolt Thrower BS3. It's that's, I think, for that value. Okay, so we've done all the other stuff. So the Iron Demon is a heavy chariot. It's 275 points. It does have like some weapons. It's got a steam cannonade, and it can replace it with a skull cracker. The carriage hauler. The best way to sort of imagine this is if you've got a friendly war machine with a steam carriage upgrade that are completely within this model's rear arc and within 8 inches of its base at the beginning of the movement phase, can be moved when the model moves. So if you imagine you've got your thing and your mortar and a something else, all of the war machines must be within the 8 inches of the model's rear arc. Now you can imagine it like a train with carriages if you want, or you can imagine this is like a massive traction engine pulling like 3 or 4 war machines with like chains, tying, just dragging them along. It's got grinding wheels, so it's stomp attacks, of which it has quite a few, are AP2, and it's strength 8, so stomp attacks are, going to be pretty nasty. They don't work against monsters, but, you drive a traction engine over people, that people go and die. It's got toughness 7 and 7 wounds, which is fantastic. Even more fantastic, it's got a 3-up save. So it's super, super, super survivable. Can't march. You can run it a bit like AOS, so you roll a d6 and add it to move. However, if you get a 1, it can't move at all, so it doesn't even move at all. It's got the steam cannonade, which is like, it's not very good. It's it's basically an organ gun. I don't know why they didn't just say fire it like an organ gun. If you roll a misfire, -1 to hit. Misfire both. No shots are fired. Model loses a single wound. Okay, so that's why they said that, because it's not because there's a misfire table for an organ gun. On this one, if you roll 2 misfires, it just takes a wound and it just doesn't shoot. So yeah, strength 5, AP 1, armor bane 1. Cumbersome, meaning you can't stand and shoot with it. BS4. Actually, that's BS4. Oh, that's really good, actually. Sorry, I thought it wasn't very good. Yeah, ballistic skill 4. Because on average, you're going to be getting, 10 shots a turn. I know it's only 18-inch range, so they're going to be hitting on 5. So that's it's still pretty good. Or it can replace that with a better, impact hit thing. What we've looked at them. So what can you tow behind it? You can tow a Death Shrieker, which has 2 different types of rocket. Now, in order to all of them, you have to pay extra to put it on a steam carriage. And again, you can give it hellbound, which means you get to re-roll like artillery dice and stuff like that. But remember, if you do upgrade to hellbound, you're rolling when you're rolling on the misfire chart, you add 1 to the result. So this is a rocket launcher, so 1248. It shoots like a stone thrower. It can either go demolition rockets, which is effectively a stone thrower, or it can go infernal incendiaries, which turns it into a mortar. Not quite as good as a mortar, because mortars have really high AP. Demolition rockets, again, not as good as a stone thrower, because there's not really much by way of AP. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's much good, to be honest. It's not better than a rock thrower or a mortar. It just gives you something that's slightly worse than both, from what I can tell. Well, apart from the fact that Infernal Incendiaries causes panic tests, which is great. Yeah, I think you're going to be doing that, aren't you? Infernal Incendiaries, just to take panic tests. Especially if somebody's got a unit of skirmishers, because a 5-inch blast is going to hit most of the skirmishers, or a big chunk of the unit, and probably kill one. And then the skirmishers got to take a panic test, and they probably don't have leadership bonuses and stuff like that. So, yeah. But for 120 points, I'm not sure it seems worth it. Then you got the Dreadquake Mortar, which is 165 points. It's quite expensive for a war machine. You can put it on a steam carriage. You almost certainly want to give it an ogre loader. And you can make it hellbound, which you possibly want to do, because it shoots like a stone thrower, but it shoots like a mortar because it's got the 5-inch blast. It's pretty strong. It's okay. But it's got this really cool rule, Quake, which is basically where the shell hits, anything that's within 2d6 of the central hole, so not the template, so it's not huge, it's not like 5-inch blast plus 2d6, it's 2d6 from the centre of the hole. After scattering, is -1 to their move, and cannot use Swift Stride. So you plonk that down and blow up a few Bretonnian knights, they lose their quick stride. Swift Stride, sorry. So that's interesting. The reason you want an ogre loader is because every time you shoot it, you've got to roll the next turn to shoot it again, because it's a bit slow to reload. So if you roll a 1 or a 2 normally, then you can't fire it this turn. You have to wait a turn for it to be reloaded. If you got an ogre loader, however, it's only on a 1 you fail to shoot. So that's worth 20 points if you're going to take this. So that every turn you can stop their cavalry from getting their, monster bomb charges. And you've got Swift Stride with quite a lot of your stuff, so you can basically more or less guarantee getting the charge off against their cavalry because of the Dreadquake Mortar. It's brilliant in terms of what it allows you to do on the tabletop. Then you got the Magma Cannon, which is just a fire throw. I say just a fire throws are awesome. 125 points, that's okay. You can put it on a steam carriage. So you've got Magma Cannons, you've got Dreadquake Mortars. I mean, if you are going to do the land train, you probably want to do the Death Shrieker anyway, again, just to cause the panic tests. So you've essentially got 120, 130. We're not going to upgrade to Hellbound. I'm just going to work out how much the train would be. So 120, 130, 130, 295, 315, 325, 450, 460, and then it was 275, wasn't it? So that would be 275. What did I say? 460, 635, 735, 735. Was it 275? 375, 275. Yeah. So seven. What did I say? 735. So it's about 750 points, probably. You might upgrade one. So let's say 800 points for your completed land train. Which does I I'm not sure it's worth 800 points, to be honest. I mean, it's going to do quite a bit of damage, though. And it's going to do a lot of destruction. What else are you going to have in your army? Like, I suppose you could just spam hobgoblins just to sort of get in the way. And just make sure they don't flee through each other and they don't panic each other when they flee. And then have a character like a sorcerer prophet just sort of on a lamassu or something. Just to stop them, you know, allow them to use its leadership. I don't know. Or you could combine that with a load of, with a Khan, with like 2 or 3 Khan and like a load of wolf packs. I mean, it's an interesting. I mean, there's loads of interesting lists you could build with you know, and Kadai, like the models for Kadai are, you know, pretty epic. Like, yeah, look, here they are. Where's the Kadai? I mean, that's what they're just sort of demon. Where's the models? There's the models. See, they're Forge World, but look at that. Look at that. Aren't they fantastic? Like demonic dwarf things with like flame and like you can see the dwarf that it was in there. They're just absolutely wonderful. Love them. So yeah, that's Chaos Dwarves. So if you got any comments, you know where to put them. In the comments section down below, and I'll endeavour to get back to you. This was quite a quick read through because there's not really that much to talk about. There's a land train, which is cool AF. There's some really good characters, some really good core units. You can take regiments and do that if you really want to, and be a pain in the backside that way. I mean, because, you know, if you take, I don't know, 20 of them, that's 450 points probably all told, and then probably so 750 points for like a Iron Sworn with 20 Iron Sworn with like 2 units of 10 Infernal Guard, which again is quite expensive, but then it's really effective. And then Hobgoblin Wolf Riders. I think they might be the star of the list because they're quite cheap and they've got loads of rules, so you can do lots of annoying things with them. And they do. You can give them short bows as well. And short bows are actually better than you think. I don't think short bows have a penalty for long range or something. I'll just quickly check that because I think short bows are interesting weapons. Long bows have like Armor Bane 1 or something, and short bows. Regular bows don't have Armor Bane 1, and short bones are for short people. Short bows have quick shot, yeah, so there's no move and shoot penalty with them. So, yeah, they don't have move and shoot, do they? No, or march and shoot, as it should be bloody called. Yeah, so you can move 9 inches, shoot your short bow 16 inches, and then move away again if you're giving them reserve move. Move 9 inches back. So they've effectively got a 25-inch range. Do they skirmish? They do skirmish. Yeah. These are awesome. I love them. I love Hobgoblin Wolf. The rules for these are brilliant. I don't think the models are terrible either. Oh, they are a bit old. Oh, no, of course. Yeah, you just use those, don't you? Oh, yeah. They look very hobgoblin-y, don't they? Yeah, you just use those. They're awesome. Sorry, I'm getting very, very distracted. Right. So again, thanks for watching, and I hope you found this useful. If you did, you know, you can like and share and all that if you want to. But yeah, leave a comment. You can subscribe if you like. I'm gonna hopefully try and do videos very frequently, as frequently as I can. Old world focused. I've got very little interest in AOS anymore now that my old square bases have come back out, and now I've got to take. Oh dear! Nearly threw water all over my PC. That was nearly very exciting. Yeah, these are my old Chaos Warriors that, as you can see, I've put like Bretonnian heraldry on all my Chaos Warriors. So they're like, I've got to rebase them, is the long and the short of it. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling now. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again soon. Toodles.